how aggressive would you be if you were in charge of the Blue Jays as far as bringing players in, but maybe mortgaging some of your future assets for that as far as young players?
Yeah, so ideally, I'd love to trade for players that I can control beyond just this season. So not necessarily the rental player. If I'm going to give up talent, I'd rather do it to where I've got some controllability to offset the fact I'm giving up a prospect that somebody can have for 6 years before they become a free agent. But I do think this is an important year for this franchise. And, you always have more prospects than you think. Than what other people think and what the grading systems say. And so, for me, I think they have to be aggressive. I think they have to go for it now. I think they need to give up as much talent as they can, not mortgaging all of it. Like Mark Shapiro won't do it because, remember, he criticized Alex Anthopoulos for giving everybody up when he did. Now, they went to the playoffs 2 years in a row, and I personally would have been okay with what Alex did. I did it. I gave up prospects. I think prospects can get general managers fired. I wait for this prospect. I don't trade to get a major league player. I don't get the guy that I need to compete. I don't make the playoffs. Then this young guy's going to turn into the star for me. Then he sort of fizzles out a bit. Then he gets hurt. And the next thing you know, I'm out the door because I waited for this, 21-year-old to turn into something. So I want to win now. I don't know what next year is going to bring. So I generally was always more aggressive at the deadline. And my thought was, it's up to us to replenish our farm system. We need to draft well. We need to develop well. Let's go ahead and give what we need to do to win, and let's go find the next round of prospects in the organization.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN Baseball Insider, Chris Bassett on the mound for the Jays tonight. It's been pretty interesting, yet somewhat predictable, I guess, how Gausman, Bassett, and Barrios have been almost indistinguishable in terms of their stat line and the way the innings pitched. I think all three of them are within 6 innings pitched. Two of them have given up, I want to say, 11 home runs. The other one's given up 12. Barrios got the best ERA, but not by a substantial margin. So, is that when you look at their starting rotation, if they're not going to acquire anyone better than those three guys, how would you feel about those three? Let's say they win the division, end up with a top seed, and they get right into the DS. Games 1, 2, and 3, is it that simple? It's Barrios, Gausman, and Bassett, and you're happy with that? Where would you stand on that?
Yeah, it's not exactly where I want it to be. I would like to get somebody in front of them. The question is, who is going to be available that slots in front of them? What's the price for that pitcher? In the meantime, the goal is, if I can't find somebody in front of them, I want to shorten the game. I want to be able to take the pressure off, go out there and give me 5 innings, and then give me, because in the playoffs, it's you play a day, you're off. You play another day, you're off. Then you play 2 days, or you play 2 and then you're off. You play 3, you're off. So you can really use your key relievers almost throughout the course of a playoff series, but then you're going to have to really build the depth of that bullpen. And that's probably the direction they're going to have to go, because the competition for impact starting pitching, like Zach Gallen's a great name, but he's got an ERA over 5 this year. I like Merrill Kelly, but I think he's probably a little bit better than the guys that they have right now, the way he's pitched this year, but not dramatic. So he's not going to be a shutdown pitcher necessarily. You got to match up against Skubal or somebody like that. So, they're going to have to really pitch the most quality innings, even if it's not the best at the beginning of the game or maybe the best at the end of the game, but give me the most in between. That's kind of how I built my staffs back in the day. That I had Al Leiter was my ace, Mike Hampton was my ace, but they weren't necessarily, Randy Johnson and those guys back then, Greg Maddux back then, but they were a tick below that. But they still won a lot of games and gave us a chance to win every day. But I wanted to make sure that I had all kinds of bullpen behind them, that no matter what the opposition threw out there, we could match up with them. And I think that may be where you see Ross and Mark Shapiro really go to fortify that bullpen if they can't find that pitcher to go to the front of the rotation.
Jays Giants tonight. I said prior to you coming on, Steve, this feels like the biggest 2 weeks of Ross Atkins' tenure in Toronto, and he's been here for 9 years. He's been here for almost a decade, Shapiro even more so. Just based on the volatility in the marketplace, 6 months ago, let alone a year ago, the position they've found themselves in, which they've earned, their players have earned, their players have put them in this spot. But now you got the market coming alive here. And fans are fickle. The media is fickle. There's going to be ebbs and flows. Like Atkins, if he can hit a grand slam or so, even a double or a triple, anything like that, hit for the cycle. I don't care which analogy you got to use. He can do it in the next 2 weeks. He can, I think, almost pull a 180 and basically redeem himself completely within the marketplace. Like, I'm sure he's aware of that. I know publicly he's going to claim that he doesn't care, but he is human. Like, it's a big, big opportunity for him in a market that's been talking a lot about Ross for the last couple of years, and a large majority of that chatter's been negative in tone.
Yeah. So I wrote about it today on .ca that, look, general managers, presidents, they're people too, so they do have feelings. Like, they know.
Yep.
They know. They feel the pressure. They know what's going on. They know that you get hired to get fired in these jobs. And yet, you can't do something that's exclusively for you personally. And I use the example, the Mets are retiring David Wright's number tonight and inducting him into the Mets Hall of Fame. Well, when I was Mets general manager, I knew I was in trouble going into the 2003 season. I could have traded David Wright for, any number of players. I could have traded Jose Reyes for any number. I had people calling me all the time, would you do this, that? And maybe trying to sniff out if I was desperate to do something, but it wasn't the right thing for the organization. So within the constraints of what is reasonable, proper, prudent, and appropriate, you make deals. And I think that for Ross, with where they've gotten themselves to right now, it's time to make that, strike that deal, find the guy. Don't get a guy you need to fix. My experience generally is that when you get a pitcher, they tend to pitch as well for you as they did for the previous team. You might get lucky and have a guy really get hot and everything else. And rarely do you get them all of a sudden they go kaput. Generally they keep doing for you. So if you get a guy who's been pretty good with another team, he's going to be pretty good for you. I want the guy who's pitching great for somebody to come in and be great for us. And when I made deals. And so I think that's going to be something to be important. Zach Gallen is pitching to a 5.4 ERA. He's got a great name, and his last 3 or 4 starts have been good. And maybe he can get 2 more starts in and sell me that he's back on track again. But if there's a clunker in there and then a mediocre start in there, then he really is the guy with a 5.4 ERA right now. And I can't, hang my hat on his name about what he's been. I want to trade for the guy for what he is.
With Steve Phillips, and all eyes are going to be on the Yankees and the Red Sox clearly, and we were discussing this earlier in the week. The arms race, so to speak. How does that work in terms of Atkins? Let's use Ross as the barometer here, because we're talking about the Jays and we're up here in Toronto. Like, how closely are you monitoring or trying to get a read on what the Yankees and the Red Sox might be doing over the next 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, I would. What I did is I read every news clipping from every baseball city, and especially the ones where I thought I might be in competition for the same players. And I think it's safe to say that the Yankees are looking for starting pitching. The Red Sox looking for starting pitching. They're both looking for bullpen help. The Yankees are looking for a third baseman. And you know what? You might be happy with Ernie Clement at third base. Maybe you think I don't have the resources. But I'll tell you right now that I would be in on the conversations on a third baseman. If the Yankees are in on Eugenio Suarez, I'm going to check in too, just to continue to run the price up, to make it like maybe I'll give you these players in my farm system. Even if I don't want to, I might pretend just to run the price up on it. But I think it's going to be, and I think the other thing to remember is that if you're competing for the same guys, and you'll know by the chatter, the rumors that are out there, then you might pay a little bit more to get a guy, but you understand that you're playing a game of keep away. That if I get them and they don't, that's a double victory. And I think that has value, talent value in a trade that you have to consider when you're trying to figure out what the right deal is to make.
Which of those teams would scare you the most, Steve?
Well, I think probably the Yankees more than the Red Sox. Although I think the Rays are not out of this either. The Tampa Bay Rays, there's a real good chance that you could have 4 AL East teams in the playoffs, and then Detroit in the Central and Houston out west. I think the Mariners are going to fade. I don't believe in the Mariners. What Cal Raleigh's done is amazing, but if he hasn't done it, they certainly wouldn't be 5 games over 500. And I don't know how he can keep doing what he's doing as a catcher. So I do think that the American League East is the one that you got to focus on. And, I think that the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays in that order are teams that I worry about. But I think all of them are worth worrying over. Those head-to-head matchups when you play those teams. So they play the Blue Jays play the Yankees, I think, coming up in a series right after the first one. I think that you've got to take care of business in those series. Head-to-head matchups are going to matter. Tiebreakers are going to matter. And so that ability to get the advantage over the other team is going to be critical for the Blue Jays to figure out if they win the division and where they seed in the wild card if they fall into that role.